Okay, well, I think we'll get started. I want to welcome everyone to our informational webinar about our 2025 California Arbor Week Small Grant Program. My name is Megan Duquette. I'm California ReLeaf's Education and Communications Program Manager, and I want to personally thank you for participating in today's webinar. And I also want to give a shout out and big thanks to our grant sponsors, which is Edison International, as well as our partners at the USDA Forest Service and CAL FIRE, who provide us ongoing support and make these small grants possible. So I'm here today with Victoria Vasquez, who is our Grants and Public Policy Manager. You want to say hello, Victoria?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today.
So we'll get started, and if you could advance the one slide, Victoria, would be really great. I wanted to go over some housekeeping items today. I wanted to let everybody know that today's webinar will be recorded and made available on our website. It will also be emailed to all registrants, and our slide deck will also be available in PDF form, so you can take a look at that. And I also wanted to let everyone know we will have a question and answer period at the end of our presentation today. You can ask questions via the chat as we go, or you can ask the questions verbally at the end by using the raise your hand feature, which is on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. It's either a symbol that says raise your hand, or it could be under the react button, which is like a heart, and you can select that and then virtually raise your hand. We'll call on you and then you can ask your questions verbally. Next slide for me, Victoria. Thanks. Today, our agenda, we are going to be talking a little bit about California ReLeaf for those of you that might be unfamiliar with our organization. We're going to talk about our California Arbor Week traditions, including this grant program, going over a broad overview as well as eligibility, encouraged activities for projects. We're going to go over key dates, grant payments, resources to help you apply for this grant program, as well as our Q&A period at the end. All right, next slide for me. So I wanted to share a little bit about California ReLeaf. For those of you that might not be familiar with our organization, we are a statewide nonprofit dedicated to supporting grassroots efforts and building strategic partnerships that protect, enhance, and grow California's urban and community forests. And we have four main program areas to help us fulfill our mission. And then the first of which is education. We host educational webinars, as well as providing resources and research information via our e-newsletter and on our website. So check out our educational website resources. We'd love for you to explore. We do advocacy at the state level. We speak for trees in state legislation and policy, and we also provide resources to local community groups so you can speak for trees in your neighborhood. We've got a great advocacy resource page on our website as well. We provide pass-through grants, and that's why you're all here today. We have two small grant programs out right now, our California Arbor Week grant program, which is specifically meant for our Southern California folks in the Southern California Edison territory. And we also have another small grant program for Central and Northern California called the Growing Green Communities Grant Program, which is generously sponsored by Pacific Gas and Electric Company. So if you've got any colleagues in those areas that may be eligible, please feel free to share that with them. And another grant program that we'll be releasing more information on in early 2025 is our California Canopy Equity Program. California ReLeaf was granted a Inflation Reduction Act grant award from CAL FIRE in the USDA Forest Service. So we'll be releasing information about that new grant program coming up. So please join our e-newsletter to stay updated about all grant program opportunities. And then our last program area is our ReLeaf network. California ReLeaf is the umbrella organization for over 85 urban forest and urban greening nonprofits throughout the state. We are as far north, our organizations are as far north as Eureka and as far south as San Diego. And we have an awesome group of folks that we bring together to have peer-to-peer learning opportunities, whether that be through webinars, our wonderful network retreat, which is our annual one-day conference that we hold in the spring. And then we have other really cool networking and workshop opportunities. So if you're not familiar with the network, please visit our website and check out all the network members, and especially in your area, that may be a potential community partner for your event. And if you're not a network member, think about joining. We have membership information on our website, and there's a lot of great benefits to being a network member, including our network tree inventory program, which allows all of our network members a free account to Tree Plotter, which is Planet Geo's inventory software to help you keep your trees thriving. It's a really great resource and tool. So I'm going to put those links in the chat right now for those of you that might be interested in taking a look about the network, about our tree inventory program, and all that good stuff. The next thing I want to chat with you, now that you know a little bit more about California ReLeaf, is California Arbor Week. That's what our grant program is named after all. Every year nationally, we celebrate Arbor Day, right? And that's the end of April. But every state has their own Arbor Day, and some have Arbor Weeks like California does. We celebrate California Arbor Week March 7th through the 14th. And we advocated for that week-long celebration back in 2011. And we've been hosting community celebrations through our California Arbor Week grant program. Excuse me, we encourage groups to have community celebrations. And so one of the ways that we do that and encourage community tree planting is through our pass-through grant program. And we also host a California Arbor Week youth poster contest. And we would really love your help and support in sharing that with young tree heroes in your community. Our goal is to get young people thinking about all the wonderful benefits trees provide our communities, whether that be through public health, improving our environment, and to help support wildlife in our community. So we want kids to think about how trees help with social cohesion. And so this year's theme is Trees Root Our Community. We have more information about that on our website, and I'll share that in the chat in just a moment. And another thing that I want to make sure that you're aware of is that we have some really great Arbor Week resources on our website, anything from media, press release samples, to educational curriculum and that kind of thing. So check out our website. We'd love for you to share those things with your community as well. And so now that you know why we named our Arbor Week grant program, is we can go to the next slide and do a brief overview of our program. So the California Arbor Week grant is designed for urban forest projects to engage new community-based organizations and tree planting activities within Southern California Edison service area. This year, we have $50,000 available in pass-through grant funding, which was generously sponsored by Edison International, who's been our partner for very many years, and we're very grateful for their support. We estimate 10 to 20 grant projects will be funded this year. Grant amounts that you can apply for are either at $2,500 or at $5,000 levels. And the project grant period is a little bit shorter than some of our previous grants that have a longer period of time. Some of our larger grants are multi-year, but this particular grant program requires that you complete your project by May 30th, 2025. And then just the last bit of info, our application period this year, it opens on November 20th, 2024. We're going to release the grant application in the morning on November 20th, and you have about a month to apply. Applications are due, they close on December 20th, 2024 at 3 o'clock. And all of the information, including our online application form that will be posted on our website page, and I'll put that in the chat momentarily. And I'm going to now turn it over to Victoria Vasquez, who's going to go over more of the details about our program in terms of eligibility. So Victoria, turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Megan, for that introduction about our Arbor Week celebration and all the grants that you can apply for here today. So I'm so glad that you're all with us here today. If you have any questions so far, please pop them in the chat and we can answer them as soon as we get to Q&A. So right now we're going to talk about who is eligible to apply for this grant in particular. So we're looking for CBOs, right? What is a CBO? A CBO is a community-based organization. It's a smaller group, it's a smaller organization to do some tree planting, tree maintenance, and tree care and tree education in their neighborhoods. So all you have to be is a 501c3, and if you're not a 501c3, that's okay. You can find a fiscal sponsor who is a 501c3 to help you to receive this payment and to make sure that your project gets to the finish line. So if you have any specific questions about that, we recommend, if you are a 501c3, to check your standing with the California Attorney General's office. You know, this is a housekeeping item for all nonprofits to re-register for your tax status. So making sure that you're current is a good way to make sure your application is going to be successful with us. Right now, the places that you can apply are inside of Edison's service area. So these are the project locations in which you can apply, anything here in yellow. And if you have a question about whether or not the place that you would like to plant trees is within the service area, checking the utility bill of that address is a good place to start. We will allow you to plant on public property, private property, federally recognized tribal lands. And if you're going to plant on public property like a school or a park or a public right-of-way, we're going to ask you to have a permission to plant form signed. And what that means is there's an agreement between you and the landowner that they will be responsible for the health and maintenance of that tree long-term after your organization has planted the tree. So if you have any questions about whether or not your location is eligible, please let me know. We're going to have some technical assistance office hours in which you can ask questions, and you can always just shoot me an email as well. Now, a really good way to determine the location for your planting project, if you've never planted trees before, which is okay, it's encouraged if you're new. We have a lot of resources for you. We want to make sure that you've done a community-based needs assessment. And what that means is that you've gone into your community, you've understood what some of the challenges are to having, good public health, great clean air, nice cooler temperatures, that you have really spoken with community members to understand what the challenges are and what the needs are in the particular location that you would like to plant. So we're looking for communities that really need trees, right? They already have a lower canopy. Maybe they've lost trees due to extreme weather, drought, wildfire, flood. Maybe this community that you're working in and with has experienced, historical marginalization and never received the amenity of trees in the actual planning and designing of their neighborhood, if it was a formerly redlined neighborhood. A low income and disadvantaged community. These are names given to census tracts by state maps that would indicate that maybe this community already has less amenity of tree, already has higher public health issues, and is definitely vulnerable to the extreme heat with our changing environment. So making sure that you are, when you're applying, explaining to us what are the needs of your community. And these needs that we've listed here would be prioritized in awarding grant dollars. We highly recommend that if your organization has not yet found mapping tools like the Tree Equity Score, California EnviroScreen 4.0, or the California Schoolyard Tree Equity Map, that you look into it and look at the location you're thinking about planting on all of these maps and really understand the ways that people have identified your location as needing assistance. Because this is a really great way to make sure that you're planting the right species, which is something we're going to get to now. The key elements to your grant application are making sure that you are within that area, that you understand that we have resources here for you if you have any questions, and to make this a really fun celebration for Arbor Week. Right? If you're planting trees in a neighborhood because you've identified a need for them and you've never done it before, that's okay. We have help for you with an in-house arborist named Alex Bink, and he can help you to choose the right species. We have a guideline that is very easy to help you do event planning, tree planting event planning in particular. And again, if you've never done this before, that's okay. This is exactly designed for people like you to make sure that you are understanding the resource of trees, the benefit that it provides the community, and how to share that out with your community members so that your tree canopy stays healthy and active and thriving throughout the generations. So planting trees is definitely a priority part of this grant. But also making sure that you are engaging the people around you to know about your project, to participate in your project, to plant alongside of you and learn the best planting practices, making sure that you're engaging all generations around you where the trees are being planted. And you can do this by engaging your local schools, after school care facilities, local programs, whether they're city park programs or place of worship, youth programs, whatever way that your community convenes their youth around these trees, it's a really good idea to engage them and invite them to plant alongside of you. Now, making sure these trees survive is the most important part, right? We get them in the ground and then they're going to last for generations. So we want to see in your application that you have a plan as to who's going to water these trees, who's going to make sure that they're alive and monitor them and visit them on a regular basis, and who will be pruning them when the time comes. We're asking that these celebrations, have an educational component. So when you're planting the trees, making sure that you're explaining to the people with you what benefit they will provide, whether that's cooler temperatures or cleaner air or both, or maybe providing fruit for the community. We want to see that you have not just planted the trees and ensured their survival, but that you've taught the people around those trees how to care for them and why they're so very important. There are some things that you cannot do. You cannot give trees away because then there's really no way for you to ensure their health and to maintain them going forward. So tree giveaways are not a component of this project. Planting temporary trees or trees in planters or boxes is also not recommended or accepted as an eligible application. These trees need to go into the ground. We would like to see some healthy soil as a result and some stormwater capture. So planting on, for example, a parking lot or a schoolyard in a box, such as the one in this picture, is not eligible. It has to be inside that service area. We get a lot of questions every year. Can it just be right outside the service area? No, I'm sorry. The trees must be planted within the funder's area, who is Edison. And these trees need to be a healthy size. So we're going to have the minimum tree planting pot or gallon size be 5 gallon. And you can go up to 24 if you need to. We don't recommend 24 with younger volunteers. They can be hard to lift, but a 15 gallon minimum on a public land and a 5 gallon minimum on a residential property is what we recommend. So to be eligible, they have to be a minimum size of 5 gallons, please. And then when I say landscaping projects that increase urban heat island effect in this point here, that means we're not trying to put a bunch of river rock everywhere that's going to emit heat at night. We're looking for landscaping projects that are natural in nature, that have mulch, that have cooling properties. Understory plantings are okay, but not as the star of the show. We need the trees to be the priority here, and then understory plantings are accepted and recommended and paid for. That's okay, but please no landscaping rock. Now, again, as we go through your community and figure out what are your community's needs, you might find something that you want to pay for, and you're going to ask me, can I pay for it? And I'm going to say yes. The questions that I receive when people are going through their neighborhoods are, can I pay for translation services of my print materials? Can I pay for print materials? Can I pay for outreach? Can I pay a stipend to a volunteer? Or can I pay staff to do door knocking to ask if we can plant trees? Yes, absolutely you can. These funds are 100% unrestricted. So however you need to get your tree planting accomplished, that's fine. You tell me what your community needs are so that we can make sure that you are accommodated and supported in the way that you need it to be. Making sure that you have the right tree choice. This is a slide dedicated to that. So as I mentioned before, we do have an in-house arborist who can help you and assist you and guide you. We do have people who apply for this grant who've never planted trees before and go to the nursery and get some suggestions and come back and apply with trees that we do not recommend. So there are trees that we recommend, right? They're going to be appropriate for your area. They're going to be appropriate for the size of where you're planting. Or is the tree too big for where you're planting, or can you go even bigger? We're going to ask you, what are your needs? If your needs were air quality, we're going to help you find a species that's really going to bring a lot of carbon out of the air and sequester it into that wood. If you're looking for a place where people convene, like a community center, how can we find you the best trees to shade things like benches and tables? We're going to help you do that. If you need to make sure that you are reducing temperatures in your neighborhood, we're going to help you to do that too. So making sure that if you're planting fruit trees, that they're easily harvested by the amount of space that you're planting these trees from one another is something that we can help you with. So I want you to, as you're thinking of this application, make sure that you're reaching out and asking for assistance if you have any questions at all. Now, planning ahead is important. Planning your space is something we can help you with. It's also something that you can ask your local arborist for, or a landscape architect, or an urban forester if you know one. Making sure that your plan is solid in maintenance, your plan is solid in what community partners you're inviting to work with you. And at the end of it all, once you've won this award and you're planting and you're with your community, we're going to ask you for a final report. And it's a very simple report. It's easy to fill out. And if you have a little bit of planning in advance, it's going to go a lot easier for you, because we're going to ask you for some photos. We're going to ask you for maybe a quote from a participant. We're going to ask you which local officials attended. How did you engage your local community? Can you share a screenshot with us of a social media post that you posted about your event? So knowing ahead of time the questions on that final report is going to make it a lot easier for you. And I'm just going to answer this in real time. I see a question coming in. Community partners and local businesses, yes, absolutely. That's a really great way for your planting event to extend its reach and its dollars. If you have a local business that wants to donate water or food to your event, that's an excellent way to put more dollars into trees and to printing your materials and to maybe boosting a social media post about your event. Yes, local businesses can be sponsors. The more partners you have, the better. Please, it's all hands on deck. So in your mind, as you're going through your planting day, crafting a story that's compelling that you can share back to us for your final report to encourage our funders to continue funding this wonderful grant and this Arbor Week celebration going forward is something that you can plan ahead for to help you be successful. So I'm going to pass this on now to Megan to talk about some key dates.
Thanks, Victoria. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, our online application window is going to open on November 20th, 2024. And the online application is going to be available on our Arbor Week grant program page. And I'll put that link again in the chat for you. It's about halfway down the page and it's highlighted in blue. And you can preview the questions now if you want to start planning the answers. I wanted to let you know that our online application form does not allow you to save your application while you're working on it, in progress application. So what we really suggest that you do is begin your application in a word processing application. And when you're ready to submit it, and you can transfer those answers over to the online application to submit. Our application window closes on December 20th, 2024 at 3 p.m. and we will not be accepting any late applications. So we highly suggest you put some reminder notes on your calendar so you don't miss that due date. We plan to send out the award notifications for the grant on January 15th. And one of the requirements for our grantees is to attend our orientation webinar to get you on the right start and to know all of the details about your grant award. And so our grant orientation is going to be on January 22nd. and we highly encourage all of you to put a save the date on your calendar for that. Our project period is going to begin once you have received that award notification. So it's from January to the end of May, on May 30th, 2025. So when you're thinking about your tree planting project, thinking about how can I accomplish that in that time period, and how do I engage my volunteers and community partners to make sure that I can finish the project on time is really critical. And then our final report that will be due on June 13th, 2025. You can also preview the questions for the final report on our information page under the section about reporting requirements. You can find the questions there. That might also help you as you're planning your application. So grant payments. We will, once you receive, all of our grantees receive their notification that they are awarded, you will receive 50% of your grant award upfront after you complete that grant agreement, our orientation, and we also have a one-on-one meeting with you to make sure that you have all the information and the resources and support that you need to have a successful project. The remaining 50% of the grant award will be paid to you upon completing your project, submitting your final report, and having that final report approved by our grant program manager. So that's really helpful. I think that having some funding up front to help pay for your equipment and all the resources you need can be very helpful. We do not require any receipts or what have you in order to receive your payment, and we do provide payment via check that we mail to you. So now that you know about that, I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that we have some technical assistance resources to help you in the application process. One thing that we highly encourage everyone to do is to sign up for our technical assistance office hours. And that's a little bit past the midway of that grants page, but I just put that link in the chat. We've got 2 dates and times for you to come. All of California ReLeaf staff will be here to help you. Our arborists will be on the call. If you have specific questions about the application, we'll be there to assist you. We also have project planning resources. Victoria mentioned quite a few things as she was talking about eligibility and the project details. We have a tree planting event toolkit on our website, which is really great to help you think about that entire process, from putting together a committee at the beginning to thanking your sponsors and donors at the end. It's a really, really helpful tool. We have data mapping tools to help you show your community's needs. We have tree species selection resources, like the wonderful database Select Tree, as well as climate adapted tree lists for Southern California, both small and larger size trees that we highly suggest that you check out. So there's also community engagement resources to help you think about how do you engage community partners in your community and include them in your project. So definitely check that out, and please attend our virtual office hours that we're having in December. So with that little bit of information, I'm going to turn it back over to Victoria, and then we can start our question and answer period. And I see that we already have one question in the chat. So we can advance one slide so you all have Victoria's email. And then I'm going to read the first question aloud. Sound good, Victoria? We're good? All right, the first question is, can it be just tree care versus tree planting, i.e. care of trees we already have that are grown or been recently planted, to show people and also advocate importance of habitats and supporting health and maintenance of established trees?
Yeah, that's a great question. A celebratory birthday party for the trees that you planted last Arbor Week. I love it. The way that this will work as a successful grant application would be a community workshop, right? Training the community how to care for young trees. So whether it's a watering component, For example, teaching them about the drip line that you set up to keep them alive, or teaching them the watering schedule that you've used with volunteers. However, you've been successful in keeping those trees maintained for the year, and then coming together to do a young tree pruning workshop to teach the community how to prune trees so that they can plant and maintain trees in their own yards or in their own spaces or with their own grants in the next year. I think that would be a successful grant application. I would also recommend creating some literature to pass out, or inviting neighbors, local schools, whomever lives in that community to learn about how to maintain trees. Yes, I think that is acceptable. And you might find that young trees you've planted over the last year, that maybe you've lost one or two, that maybe your mortality rate has kicked in and it's a time to replace trees. So making sure that there's room in your budget to replace any trees that you've planted over the last year would be a really great move as well.
Awesome. Folks, you're welcome to put any questions you might have in the chat. You're also welcome to raise your hand virtually. There's the raise your hand feature in the bottom of your toolbar under React, or you can absolutely do that. We'll give you a minute. Sometimes it takes a bit to digest everything that you've just heard, and we're here to answer any questions you might have.
Great. And I'll address the question about older tree maintenance. Yes, absolutely. I have to say, one of the most exciting tree planting events that I've attended in my lifetime had a professional, like a show, but really it was just a large tree being maintained by climbers with chainsaws by professionals. So a local certified tree care company attended the event, and they did a demonstration of how to trim a mature tree that needed maintenance. And they roped off a large area around the tree while we all ate our lunch that was donated from a local business after we planted our young trees, and watched how it happens. And that way the local tree care company was able to talk about pricing and the importance and give out their information to the neighborhood. So I think it's very compelling to do a mature tree care event, and combining it with tree planting would make it more eligible. And the next question that I see is about trees bigger than 15 gallons. Yes, you can. However, these are very small grants, and so they're typically used for volunteer events. And once you get over a 15-gallon tree, it's a very heavy task for volunteers to lift a 24-gallon tree. We also find that they might not acclimate as well. The shock, a tree kind of goes into shock as it's transplanted. So it's been in that pot for a really long time if it's over 15 gallons, several years likely. And sometimes your mortality rate is not as successful because it's harder for a larger tree to acclimate into its new surroundings. That said, if you have many adult volunteers, maybe some professionals with you, and you already have the care dialed in on a weekly basis for the next 2-3 years, then maybe that's the best size for you. So that'd be on a case-by-case basis, but typically we do not recommend over 15-gallon trees.
Can I do it? Can I do
Yeah.
a follow-up to that question?
Please.
I totally agree. And I was like, well, I'm not, if we're gonna do a planting event, we're not gonna be going 24, 30. But if we had an event of like watching them plant this big old tree or something and around it and how we maintain it properly. I don't ask because we employ a landscape company, so they would be on the hook too. But is that sort of a celebration event during that week of watching them plant this big old tree and how we're gonna maintain it and the pamphlet material and all that around it?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I mean, if your volunteers are able to help like backfill it, right, then they can get some hands-on experience, and just the educational component there, is valuable. I do see that as valuable. And maybe explaining that as well in your event, like during your event, like you can do this at home with a smaller tree, and we hope that you do. And now you know how to do it. So yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And Victoria, we have another question in the chat, and the question is, we planted over 200 trees in the last 3 years. At least one of the tree planting events was funded in part through ReLeaf. If these trees are surviving, but some of the other trees not planted under the grant are not, can we replace those?
Yes, replacement trees are an eligible activity as long as they come with a community event, right? So if you're replacing 1 or 2 trees on a property and there's room for the community to come in and plant those along with you and to learn about how to plant a replacement tree and to maybe do some maintenance on the rest of the trees there or combining it with a workshop, yes, that would be an eligible activity, much like a birthday party for trees. Again, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but all of your events must be free to attend and open to the public. So we have had applicants in the past who have arranged with a school, but then the school did not want to have people on grounds who were not school members. So just making sure to plan ahead in advance that you have a community that can join and that it's free and open to the public.
I had
We
a
would-
question.
Sure.
So we have been lucky enough to get at least 1 or maybe 2 grants from ReLeaf in the past. Oh, I'm having a computer problem. Hang on. Hang on.
That's okay.
Okay.
We have another question in the chat while we wait for Barbara to come back. And the question is, do our events have to happen during Arbor Week? Can I have it outside of Arbor Week, like Earth Month or a local climate initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. This definitely aligns with Earth Day and the springtime and other events that you might be doing. If you're planting, it is designed to happen in February because that's the best time with your public partner. That's okay too. This grant is granted in honor of Arbor Week, and so celebrations during that time are encouraged. However, any time before the last day to plant would be accepted. I see you back, Ms. Brown.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. So where I was going is I think the grant umbrella is about $50,000, and which is great. Is the grant, and you might have covered this, I missed the first part of the meeting, but is the grant being given the same amount as they've been given in the past, or are they more this time?
Yeah, Megan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so we have $50,000 available for pass-through grants, as you mentioned, Barbara. We will be giving grant awards at the $2,500 or $5,000 grant level. And in your application, you can basically select which grant amount that you are applying for. So if you have a very small event, and you need 2,500, you could apply for that. Or if you have a larger event and are applying for 5,000, you can do that as well. And that information you'll see on the preview of the grant application questions as well.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions? You're welcome to raise your hand, unmute yourself, or put those in the chat. We'll give you another minute to see if there's any other additional questions for us today. And like I mentioned earlier, as you're looking at all of the information on the website and kind of digesting what we talked about here today, we do have 2 technical assistance webinars in early December, and you can bring those questions to us then as well, or email us, and we'd be happy to get back to you. Okay, well, I'm seeing no other questions. Thank you very much for attending today's informational webinar. We'll hope that we'll see applications from everyone for our California Arbor Week grant program sponsored by Edison International. So thank you so much for your time today. Have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and we look forward to hearing from you. Bye, everybody, and take good care.